Rogue, a story as old as being the counter pick to a meta and actually finding success in the ability to do so. Make sure you guys smash the elephant crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out more content. We're starting off here with Unchained. Yeah, Unchained is, I almost thought about putting Unchained as one of the top 10 decks of the format. But I think this deck is more suited for the anti-meta side of things because of the way it kind of functions. It plays under Shifter. Shifter's a little bit of an inconvenience when it wants to access, reviving stuff from the graveyard. But let's call it what it is. The ability to use your opponent's monsters to link climb technically counts as a form of spot removal, which technically only Unchained really has access to. Now, if you really want to start getting into the creative side of things here, you can technically merge this deck with some of the other fun stuff like Labyrinth, because everything's a fiend. You can create this Unchained Labyrinth monstrosity. Now, that might be a little bit higher on the tier list of things, but that is a deck that can actually function out here. And, I'm going to be honest with you, it can be a very, very scary deck to actually see that do its thing. I'm not particularly all that excited about the capabilities of what that deck can do, but trust me when I say this, things can get very, very out of hand very, very quickly, especially if you don't know how to play against Unchained. The deck does a lot more than I think people really give it credit for. And once again, if you're not fully aware of all the things that Unchained can actually do, or you're like, I'm not really too worried about Unchained, then you're probably going to lose. Those are the things that rogue decks want. They want people to not consider them actual decks, and then you just lose. That's as easy as that, right? And yeah, Unchained's board breaking capabilities are really good. They just lose to Dragoon. But, outside of Brandon, who's playing Dragoon out here? Not a single soul. Next up is going to be Mathematic. And I'm still leaving Mathematic on the list. I know a few people are going to be like, Robbie, you're just coping out here. But here's the thing. At this stage in time, I think Mathematic is actually fine to leave in the rogue category. Honestly, people still aren't aware of what it does. Also, you can use the spirit package to access the ability to get to circular. It's like circular's not a problem to get to for this deck. It's just they made it a lot less consistent. That was the big thing that they needed to do. They needed a way to bump down the deck's consistency, and they did just that. Now, all things considered, Dimension Shifter is still a card. It still exists in the format, and if you look around hard enough, if you look hard enough out there, you will still hear the remnants of Bystials in the sunset. Dragon Link still is a deck, even though you're not going to see it mentioned in any of these videos, because I didn't know where to put it. It's in Rogue, but it wasn't worth talking about in Rogue. But all of these checks still exist within the format. That hasn't changed, all right? It's just as we kind of get further away from where we're sitting right now with the format, you do see the same continued thing. People forget how to play against decks. They no longer consider them real threats at that stage, and then that means that leads them to underestimate them, and then that's where people get the chance to come in and take full advantage of the meta. And that's where Mathematic sits right now. It sits in the rogue category of, oh, you blinked? Oh, congratulations, you just lost to Mathematic. Get good. You know how many people I've already seen lose to Mathematic, and the format hasn't even super taken off yet, and they're like, I don't even understand, how did this happen? It's because you underestimated the deck. That's honestly all there is to it. Alright, the deck it's still there. Next up is Marincess. Speaking of underestimating the cyber decks out here, every time I play against a Marincess, it goes one of two ways. They either open up just the absolute nuts. I got Ash, Drolled, Impermed, Waved, all literally off of their turn one. They set up the Aqua Argonaut. Obviously, they searched the wave. That's another problem. But they had Imperm, Droll, and Ash. Now, I don't know if you know this or not, but if you have all of those cards, I think you might be the best Yu-Gi-Oh player to ever actually exist in the entire game. And that's a hilarious thought at the end of the day, that all of this stuff can be brought together. All of these crazy ideas are brought together because of that. And that's where we're sitting right now with Marincess here. You have a deck that has a particularly strong top end of things, in my personal opinion, that can really destroy people. And once again, we reference back to the good old Aqua Argonaut out here, where, having negates the ability to spin up things. Obviously, if you can take care of the field spell or, the Crystal Heart before it can actually do its thing, that's typically where you see most of the action come in that makes the deck have a hard time. But for what it is at this point in time, Marincess, definitely in the rogue category. This deck, once again, it's in same thing as Mathematic. If you're not prepared for it, you're just going to lose. There's nothing else really too much to it. Also, Zealantis getting a board clear when they're locked into water, and they just clear your entire field, and they look at you, and they're like, hey, you like that? You like my Link 4 being able to do that? Every Link 4 in that deck has the subtext of clear your opponent's field, haha, hee 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 hee. Like, what are you going to do about it? And you're just like, nothing. There's all there is to it. It's dumb. Next up is Vanquishel. Rumor has it that Vanquishel poofed. Where'd it go? Where did Vanquishel go, Robbie? Robbie, where is Vanquishel? Well, it's there. Somewhere down in the rogue category of things at this point in time is honestly the best thing that I can tell you. Because the deck, it still does what it technically needs to do, I guess. But when it gets its next wave of support, come, later on in the year, I think the deck will be a fantastic addition. Also, the deck seems like it could potentially be really good for Worlds, because, just vanquish soul things. And if it's going to take Worlds for the deck to be, doable, well, there's that. But either way, from where we're sitting right now, Vanquishel is going to be one of these decks that it's going to sit in the rogue category for a little while. It's going to take a lot of people a chance to kind of look around, kind of figure out, hey, maybe we could try something here. Maybe there is some sort of viability to this. You can do some of the Warrior Toolbox shenanigans with them, because, all real things considered with the Fire Duels pack, you could try some Battling Box or interactions. I don't highly recommend it, but it was something that my friend was looking at me and going, Robbie, technically this deck can do things with the Battling Boxer cards. And I'm like, it doesn't seem like a good, consistent, method of making the deck feel better. It's just, I feel like we're trying to do things that maybe the deck might not want to do. But once again, in the rogue category, it does take some level of innovation to find success. And I think that we could, oddly enough, quite possibly see that. So we'll have to wait and see. Next up is Testina. Robbie, why is Testina not in the wild card video? What are you doing? Well, here's the thing. For the category of rogue, you have a deck that checks the requirements of nobody knows what the heck is going on with this deck. This is just Destructive Daruma Cannon, the deck. It just flips down all your opponent's monsters, plays Ignorance Turbo, and just aims to not care about anything that the opponent is trying to do. Did I check all of those boxes? Because that's exactly what Testina does. It does have some pretty decently cool boss monsters. I'll give it to that. But from where I'm sitting, if a deck manages to find a splashable method to take advantage of this, then people are really going to be scared out of their mind. And I think that that's honestly what might put this deck in the rogue category as a deck that's going to catch people off guard. They're not going to know how to handle, the matchups for that. And that's honestly a scary thought at the end of the day, that if people don't know how to handle this, they're just going to lose. Seems like the perfect Yu-Gi-Oh! Checks and balances system to me at the end of the day. So I might be a little bit off my rocker putting Testina here. I want to believe that there is some sort of craziness that hasn't been explored out here. I want to believe that somebody genuinely thinks that they know something hilarious, because those are the things that tend to make, the format's a little bit more interesting is when you can get that wild card sauce to actually be a little bit more exciting. And I think we are sitting on that potential here. So what do you guys think about these rogue decks? Please leave a comment down below what you guys think. I'll see your beautiful faces back here later in the day, guys. Peace out. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.